I think I should say this episode recorded while Joanna and Sarah Kaye are wearing 19th century clothing.
Yes, and I feel very 19th century and professional. All right, now I want to look into who mainly made clothes back then. Was it men or did women have a big say?
Children did, actually. I'm glad that you asked.
I know that children made them. I'm saying designing.
Yeah.
The designing women, if you will.
It's the podcast that Sly Serpent warned you about.
Welcome to Biting All the Apples, where two gals discuss one radical book.
The 1895 bestseller, The Women's Bible by Elizabeth Cady Stanton. I'm Sarah Kaye.
I'm Joanna V.
Today we are inviting you to the meat feast that is Leviticus.
It is a meat
There
feast.
is a lot of meat feasting. It's like the Bible's How to Live and Do Things section. It's one of the shorter sections in the Women's Bible, but we've got a few things to say about it right after we remind you of our friendly disclaimers.
Biting All the Apples covers analysis of religious texts. Some listeners that are religious out of the need for the illusion of certainty may find the content offensive. Biting All the Apples also discusses historic texts and feminist movements. We recognize that individuals, groups, and alternative movements have been left out of history. We will note that whenever possible. We are open to additional information provided to us in the spirit of expanding knowledge.
I cannot wait to get some expanding knowledge information.
Into the Leviticus.
Leviticus.
So, as you know, because I told you, every time I hear Leviticus, I think of the musical Six now. Because I'm like, ooh, they say quoting Leviticus.
I don't even know what the musical... I'm just...
the musical Six.
I hope you'll still talk to me after I tell you that.
I will tell you.
Do tell.
That it's about Henry VIII and his 6 wives. And they form a rock band, even though some of them are beheaded. It's fantastic.
Sense. That makes sense. So it's historically accurate.
Historically accurate with, because they joined a band called the Roiling Stones. And it's amazing. If you have not listened, you must.
But so they talk about Leviticus?
Well, yeah. It says, actually, it is Catherine. Which one is it? She is of Aragon.
She's one of the wives?
One of the wives.
One of the wives and the rockers.
Catherine of Aragon. So you read a Bible verse that I'm cursed because I was your brother's wife? You say it's a pity because, quoting Leviticus, I'll end up kittyless all my life. Well, Daddy, weren't you there when I gave birth to Mary? Oh, hi, baby. That's the quote.
Okay. But I was waiting for more. I'm like, I'm into this. Let's make this.
Yeah, so she was getting grief. And it was because of Leviticus, because, it's got the laws in it, like we said. It's the, what'd you say? How to Live and Do Things section of the Bible.
That's right.
And apparently, since she was the brother's wife, she can't have any kids, which, if you read the Woman's Bible, they actually talk about that. And I was like, I got to use that quote because I've been really into Six lately.
I need to check that out.
You do. It's a rockin', banging musical. It's got some bangers in it.
Fantastic. It is. So we didn't even warm up. We just started to be like, let's just get into Leviticus.
Let's get into it.
I mean, we don't need a lot of warm up. We're just getting into this Women's Bible.
I just got.
What are we going to do? Talk
in.
about what's going on in the world?
No, that would be depressing.
But it is, so Leviticus is the How to Live and Do Things section. There's a ton of stuff in it, from what I understand, which is why I was surprised that it's kind of just a teeny section of the Women's Bible.
It is because, it's not a teeny section of the Bible, though, but just the stuff applying to women, I think, was shorter.
Au contraire.
Au contraire.
Not that I didn't go back and read all of Leviticus in the regular Bible.
Yeah.
The normie Bible. But it's my understanding that there's a lot more information that would pertain to women. That's why it's kind of interesting about what they picked out of that.
Oh, did you do a little extra research this week? Because I was fully on extra research duty.
I did.
I think it was ADD. But
Yeah, you're like, but I was on that.
But I was like, ooh, I don't look that up. I'm going to look that up.
But they do. So there's really only a few things that they focus on. They, as in Elizabeth Cady Stanton. And did any of the other ladies write?
Yeah, I think it's all ECS.
She really took. Did you notice? She was like.
took the hit. No. Oh, wait. That's before the Book of Numbers, though. LDB does have a little thing at the end.
She does.
At the very end.
She let her in.
It was really good, too.
Yeah. Elizabeth was like, I'll take Exodus and Leviticus.
I'll take it over and I'll
take it over and I'll tell you what to think. The thing that I noticed is she did pick a lot of the stuff that there's a lot of lambs.
A lot of sacrifice. Also, did you catch the part where I read it a few times and I'm like, are they saying they're going to eat their own children?
I was like, that's this is why we've abandoned the chronological approach, by the way.
We're not chronological.
We're not chronological like we tried to do last week. And you get it. Leviticus, follow along, keep up.
Yeah.
Let's just start at the end because that is.
They did say that, right?
I
was like, no, I'm going to read that again. But then I read the comment.
I'm like, they didn't mention this in catechism.
At all. But actually, did they? I don't even think we went over the Old Testament in catechism. We were more Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, bless this bed that I lay on, right? That's who we listen to in the Roman Catholic.
Yeah. The bros.
So,
disciples. I will read, so verse 29, and I can't read these Roman numerals because I have my 19th century glasses on. Leviticus XXVI something 29. And ye shall eat the flesh of your. I can't read it. I can't see it. Way to leave people hanging. Just use your imagination.
I can't find
sons. It says of your sons, and ye shall eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters.
And your daughters
shall ye eat. And Elizabeth is like. Okay, the 29th verse at last gives us one touch of absolute equality.
Go women!
The right to be eaten.
Yes!
So this is really where I wish we had some outside. I'm like, is this for real?
Yeah, like she says it. And I love the way she just is like, I actually wrote, haha. Yeah, and then she says, yeah, this really did happen. People did eat their kids, I guess, in Samaria. That's what they said, Chaldeans. So I'm like, see, I got to go read about this last siege of Jerusalem by the Romans where they apparently ate their children. That's how I read it. Am I wrong?
That's what it, okay, but that's what it says. But I don't know if we're dipping into allegory or just eating flesh.
I hope.
As Catholics, we are not unfamiliar.
Here's the thing. This could be interpreted, because I was like, are they saying that? Or are they saying like, your son and your daughter have a lamb and you can eat that flesh?
Oh, should we have read before?
It doesn't really say that.
Let's not put it in context. Why?
Eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters.
Yes.
That's creepy. And then the whole thing of just they talk about life of a woman because they're like, and you need to eat it with like heavy bread and 10 women need to bake it. Oh, these are things from the Bible, like, and 10 women must bake in the same oven, which I think is hilarious to think about someone writing that in the book of the Word of God.
Which is why Elizabeth says there could be no greater punishment in ordinary life than for 10 women to bake in one oven.
Yeah.
Ovens were probably a different size back then.
Maybe. Or,
it could have been a big, like, outdoor pizza oven.
Could have been a
next
giant
to the pool.
Pizza oven. Yeah, they had a pool. I'm sure that they had a pool back then.
Pools.
Many pools in the time of the Bible.
Many rivers.
So all of this got me, it's getting me more interested in the Bible. So that's where
great.
Sorry, I kept going back there. Because I was thinking, God, in catechism, we didn't talk about the Old Testament. They were like, oh, that's the Old Testament. This God that you're learning about is a merciful God. That God was scary. I do remember someone saying that.
Is that what, really?
Yeah, legit.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
He didn't become merciful until the New Testament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Convenient.
Very convenient.
Very convenient.
But only merciful if you follow the rules.
Right.
Same rules.
Which is where Leviticus is full of rules.
All the rules.
And Elizabeth has lots of bones to pick. But it's similar. She talks about the woman is scourged. The man presents the priest with a ram and is forgiven.
Yeah.
And she just points out.
Same offense, like whatever you do. A man can get off by just handing over a dead animal. Well, not dead. They got to kill it.
Right.
Women, scourged for life.
Scourged for life. And that's in Leviticus throughout. There's all this gender inequality. And that's so that what I had understood where I was saying they didn't include all the parts that had to do with women because I believe there's also stuff in Leviticus about menstruation.
Oh, being unclean.
Or is that, yeah.
Unclean. It was just, that just describes being unclean.
Oh.
That's what that makes us unclean. And that's where she was saying, even in animals, the distinction between male and female is made. That because the female animals could be considered unclean. And I'm assuming it's because they also have babies, which is very bloody and messy, right?
Right.
Unclean. I did not read all of Leviticus, but they did say that a lot of it was like how to build the tabernacle, which is where God lives with the people.
Right.
Like he lives in heaven, but once he talked to Moses, he's like, actually, I want to live with the people in this tabernacle, and you got to build it like this.
Yeah.
And they there were dimensions, and they built the little tabernacle, which is still in churches today. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Well, did I tell you I've been confirmed twice? Once in 1991 against my will, and then again in, I believe it was like 2010 or something, just because my nephew wanted to be confirmed and I happened to be there, and then he dropped out, and then all of a sudden I was getting reconfirmed. Same church, St. Agnes. Isn't that crazy?
Double confirmation.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to do this religion thing, and it's going to change my life. I'm older. And so I started doing a Bible group and with some friends, and we did it at a house. And I said, why don't you come to my church? Because I thought it was super cool that the church was doing a Passover thing. I'm like, oh, look at us embracing our Judaism side, right? So I invited them to that. And then I said, let's go in the church and talk about what we're reading, our Bible reading. And one of the church ladies, we're literally talking about the Bible, and one of the church ladies came running at us and was like, why are you talking? The tabernacle is open and God is present. And I don't mean to laugh, but I was like, we're talking about we're talking about it. We're talking about him. Shouldn't he be here? I hope he's here, because one of my favorite things is where two or more of us gather, our prayers will be answered. But yeah, apparently when the tabernacle is open, which is literally just now it's little, you couldn't fit people in it. It's
a little.
It's well, it's big enough. That's where they put the bread, the body and blood of Christ. Afterwards, they lock it all up in there.
I just almost laughed.
Don't laugh at me.
I'm not.
This is my church. And but yeah, so it was open for that time, and apparently you're not supposed to talk because he's in our church. But I was like, you just turned away these 7 girls that I just brought here.
Yeah.
And they'll never want to be Catholic.
Because you can't talk.
And it was just shocking because it was a big deal.
I don't understand how people learn and then remember all these rules. That's
so
all I'm saying.
rules,
I'm like,
yeah.
how was I supposed to know about the tabernacle being open?
I know,
closed?
and that was our
was
church.
this in Indiana Jones? I didn't if it wasn't, I didn't know it.
Yeah, I felt bad, but also they had just had an event with people from all over the community that weren't from the church, so maybe a sign.
See, and they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know.
No. I didn't know, but it turned me off a little bit.
Well, I think you are pointing out that clinging to the ritual is this very insider-outsider situation.
Yeah.
And there's certain interpretations and certain, it's not, what is it, sex Is it sex? No, it isn't. Thank you.
SECTS is what we're saying. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's like this is how you do this. This is how you do this, and yeah, Catholicism is a lot like that.
It's very which is one of the reasons, because it's always the same. I think it's so comforting, right? For me, it was for me that comfort. But then to grow up and be like, oh, actually, I don't know how any of this works, even though I grew up in all the classes. I didn't learn the specifics, I guess.
I don't know when people learn these things, and you're double confirmed, and you still don't even know.
I'm double confirmed, and I didn't know, right?
I don't know about their vetting process for this confirmation.
Oh, I think they.
But these rules, these ideas of like, this is specifically how you have to prepare the food, how you have to, sacrifice your rams, and do these different rituals.
The animal has to be.
That's what Leviticus is all about. And that's where Elizabeth just points out through and through that all of these rules crap on women. I'm like, let me just sum this up for you.
They do. They crap on women.
Yeah.
Even to the fact where you eat, like where the men eat, where it's written there, it is a holy place. But if you add some women in there, it can't be holy anymore.
Right.
It can just be a clean place. And I think she says, in the 13th verse, they can't eat with the sons, but in the 14th they can. We notice that where the sons eat alone is called a holy place. Where the daughters eat with them is simply called a clean place. We are thankful, however, we as in Elizabeth and all of the women with her, because I think they talked about it. She wrote it, but I think the way that I'm reading it is they all chatted and they were like, yeah, Elizabeth, write it.
You go for it, Elizabeth.
We are thankful, however, that in the distribution of meats, the women came in occasionally for a substantial meal in a clean place. So thanks for that, transcribers. Thanks for giving us some food, throwing us a bone every once in a while. And that it's a clean place and it's not disgusting because, women apparently were kind of seen as dirty and unclean because we gave birth to the whole human race.
They're like, we don't mind that you do that, but can you not make it so messy?
Yeah, it kind of grosses us out. It's a little. So then I started daydreaming a little bit about the people that transcribed it and how they felt about, if they were ever there during childbirth and they were like, oh, that's scary.
I guarantee they were not there.
But they must have seen it.
They've heard of it.
You don't think they saw any of it?
I don't think so. Just the midwives. I don't know what they did back then.
I don't either.
And it's not in Leviticus. It's just trying to tell you how to do things. This is how
it's very specific.
And that's just from the little clips that we're looking at.
And then so they would cook their meat. A lot of it, and it makes sense if you're thinking about it logically. So I think in our last episode, we talked about that college in Germany that was like, we don't know if these people really existed or not, but and people were like, ooh, don't talk about that so much. And they were like, well, we're research people, so we're going to keep talking about it, but we're not going to cover it in the news or anything. But you can have that belief. But if someone created it just to help society, that's what I've been thinking in my head for many years, is they needed to do some stuff to make sure people stayed healthy, whatever, right? So keeping it clean, I mean, that's like a service to humanity, right?
Right.
They're trying to give disease.
They're trying to give a little bit of social order. The thing is, we get it. But why is this still applying in 2025?
Exactly.
Let alone in 1895.
Yeah. And
why are we still talking about rams and lambs?
And it's making a resurgence in a crazy way.
Yeah. You know what else is?
What?
A little something they mention here about wizards.
Oh, yeah. And witches and wizards are mentioned in this book.
Oh, many a time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the quote that I can't see.
Do you need readers?
Can I get a monocle?
You need a monocle.
Oh, actually, I do. You know what? Let me take off my.
Oh, take off your regular frames.
These are my.
You do look fabulous, by the way. We are
you
legit
look really good
in our Victorian garb.
Yeah, this
today.
is
we're official.
I highly recommend wearing a shirt that's form-fitting and has 100 buttons up the front. because it's like a posture
Yes.
thing.
Makes me feel...
Oh, look, I can see.
Oh, I love
I'm like,
that.
I can read. Oh, we're reading the women's Bible. I had no idea.
Oh, thank goodness for glasses.
So a man also, or a woman that hath a familiar spirit, or that is a wizard, I like how it's written there, like,
Yeah.
you know,
If you're a wizard.
shall surely be put to death. They shall stone them with stones. Their blood shall be upon them.
Yeah.
Okay, right? Elizabeth is like, yeah, we know. Why are you still thinking this? And then she brings up the witch trials.
Oh, yeah. Salem.
And
Well,
what
not
is-
Salem. It was actually Europe.
And then my thinking, connecting brain is like, interesting, because a lot of, interesting, the murder of women.
Yeah.
But some of the women that were deemed witches and stuff, a lot of times they actually, the idea that witches had brooms, I believe, comes from the fact that like some of these women were really into like cleaning their homes, and that wasn't like
cleanliness.
it wasn't like a regular thing.
Oh, maybe.
Also, having cats was like, cats like saved the world. I don't know if people know that, but cats, because of
so I believe it.
because when farmers had larger crops, this is like, again, I'm paraphrasing.
Do it.
Here we go.
Do it, girl.
But when farmers had larger crops that they could harvest and store more and more, you have a rodent problem. And then they're like, these little furry critters are very handy to have around. So it's kind of funny that
Clean people.
Clean
getting
people.
Rid of, yeah.
That's
We're considered witches.
yeah, and I'm totally, that's just some stuff I remember, stuff I pick up. I didn't research that part of it.
You didn't.
But that's just where I was like, that's interesting.
But that's the same kind of thing. So I was thinking about childbirth. Like they must have just thought, oh my God, this is so dangerous and dirty. Like we need to have rules around this. Or because people, they probably had like wives and things die in front of them. They're like, oh, we need to make sure this is a rule in Leviticus. I mean, Moses, God told him that they should make that a rule. Because that's where Leviticus came from, right?
right.
It's all of what God told Moses on Mount Sinai. So it says it's clearly shown that childbearing was not considered a sacred office, and that the offerings to the Lord were necessary for the purification, So they're like, ooh, that dirty thing is happening. A baby's coming in. And you'd have to do double time if it was a daughter being born, because, you're giving birth to someone else that's going to be messy. That's how I read it.
Do double time what? Double time cleaning?
You have to give offerings, those lambs. That's what I'm saying. You got to sacrifice things.
2 lambs, 1 girl?
2 lambs, 1 girl, 1 lamb, a boy. No, I don't know if that's right. But I mean, similar.
Why were some of these things dropped from rituals and then other things still held over? That's a question.
This is a question.
But the attitudes about women being secondary, I'm like, it's pretty clingy.
Yeah, it's sticking, right?
And this is why I'm not off the witch thing.
Oh, stay to the witch thing.
Yeah, because this is speaking of resurgence.
Oh.
Is the idea, so that's not the only part in Leviticus where witches and sorcery is mentioned, from what I understand.
Okay.
Because I found an article in New England Law Boston website, just pulled it out of nowhere. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
But I was like, what?
You were doing some
what were
deep
the laws
digs.
back in the 17th century when the Salem witch trials happened? The collection of civil and criminal laws and rights included witchcraft among its capital offenses. And they cited biblical sources for its authority.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and they used a specific passage. Oh, see, I said Leviticus. This is from Exodus. That's why I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm just trying to.
They're right connected to each other.
I'm just trying to spitball about witches.
Yeah, I like it.
But in Exodus, and they didn't bring this up before, but it does state something along the lines of like, do not allow a sorceress to live. And so there's all this stuff about, wizards and sorceresses and evil. And that concept, that's what I'm seeing that return. We've seen a lot more of, like we'll see Republican senators be like, oh, these school shootings happen because it's just pure evil.
Yeah.
The fact that that's still held over is because it's describing something that people fear or don't know about.
Little mystical things.
If you just let the Bible rule the law, you can just call anything you don't like evil.
Yeah.
And then they can just, you can
just go find a crazy verse from the Bible. Because, I mean, I got to be honest. If anybody just like took the Bible and read it right now and tried to interpret it, you'd get like a million different interpretations.
Right.
Because it's a tough read.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, just stick with the women's Bible.
Yeah, right. Stick with the women's Bible because
it is a tough read. But the idea that they're using 17th century discussion of, what is evil, evil spirits and stuff, and there's still a holdover of that. And feels like a resurgence of this idea of like, oh, these evil forces, and it's us, the good Christians, against the evil.
Yeah, and the funny thing is I think that evil people are taking the Bible for years. This is my interpretation, that people that are not great people, not good people, not out for anyone but themselves, go, ooh, people really like this book, and I can use it to my advantage, which I think is happening again. I think there's people that don't really follow the true teachings of the good things in the Bible. I think she states that sometimes. She's like, there's some really good things in here about how to treat each other. But then there's some things that are like a little wonky and we're not sure who wrote them, right?
Like 2 lambs.
Yeah, 2 lambs.
2 lambs.
You got to have 2 lambs. You got 1. You have no rights. You got all the rights because of your sex. And it's being used by these people and they're like, I don't believe this, but I bet I can use these thoughts in the Bible that people that do really believe these things and have been reading them will go, oh my goodness, the rapture is coming, don't worry, all this crazy stuff is happening, but you're going to be just fine because you're a good person.
Because you followed all the steps for the rituals.
Yeah.
Outlined
in this book that's been around, right? The Word of God. That's how it's marketed forever. Right.
And that's what I mean. Like, people cannot, if you start calling things evil, these like kind of nebulous, like undefinable things, the person that's saying that is kind of acting like they have God in their pocket and can be like, I can determine who's evil and who should be arrested.
Yeah.
Or thrown in a lake because they're a witch.
Yes. Or thrown to Venezuela because...
Yeah, that's what I'm like.
Brown.
This part, I was a little like, this is still this. We're so 17th century.
We are. It's like we haven't. That's a crazy thing. We haven't progressed, and a lot of, at least in America, surrounds this book. Our lack of progression. Yes or no?
What? Well, I mean,
a lot of it.
Yeah, I just think people are using some tried and true control tactics because this has been working for hundreds of years.
Yeah. Yeah.
The reason, so the Salem witch trials, so evidence points to several factors that may have contributed to mass hysteria. And I keep on going back to this because it's in Leviticus, and I feel it really applies to not just 1895, but to this very day. So influx of refugees from King William's war with French colonists, a recent smallpox epidemic.
Which could give you high fevers and hallucinations.
So we've got influx. Well, even think of it more like in relation to today.
Okay.
How the population would start to turn on others. So we've got an influx of refugees, a recent smallpox epidemic, the threat of attack from Native Americans, a growing rivalry with neighboring seaport of a Salem town, and the simmering tensions between leading families in the community created the perfect storm of suspicion and resentment. So that's how all that came. And they had the Word of God to back up their capital punishment of these witches.
Yeah.
Very interesting. We have a similar situation like right now.
Yeah, and with the Bible being used to say, this is evil, this is good, this is how you should live your life.
These people deserve to have their head shaved and put in prison.
Yeah, there's no logic to what is happening currently. But
yes,
many
historians believe that the witches were also victims of scapegoating, personal vendettas, and social mores against outspoken, strong women. And Elizabeth writes here too, those who in times past have persecuted witches will find justification for their cruelties. The actors in one of the blackest pages in human history claim scripture authority for their infernal deeds. Far into the 18th century in England, the clergy dragged innocent women into the courts as witches, and learned judges pronounced on them the sentence of torture and death.
OMG.
Question for you, Joanna.
I got it.
She goes, the chapter on witchcraft in Lecky's History of Rationalism. Do you know what is that?
I don't know.
Okay, that wasn't one of your rabbit holes.
That is not one of mine.
History of Rationalism contains the most heart-rending facts in human history. Here's the quote. It is unsafe to put unquestioned confidence in all the vagaries of mortal man.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
I did do something with that.
Do it.
Are you in the last section? That's my question.
No, I can't get over the witch section. I'm in the wizard section.
Witches and wizards.
I know. I'm like, I just wanted to talk about eating children and witches.
Witches, so Hansel and Gretel.
I know.
Let me bring it back to the musical Six, because that's why I looked it up. So it said, if a man shall take his brother's wife, it's an unclean thing, which is why in the time of Henry VIII, Catherine of Aragon got taken to the courts. He wanted an annulment, right? That was the first annulment. He ended up getting excommunicated because he told the Pope, I got to end this marriage because I found some hot-looking babe, and I want to get annulled. And she was like, that's a bunch of crap. Anywho.
The king?
Yeah, the king wanted an annulment. And he had to go to the Pope.
And the Pope turned him down.
And the Pope turned him down. He was really mad. And then, he got excommunicated from the church.
And then
and then he had 6
Henry
more
be like,
wives.
I'm just going to change the national religion. Is probably like, fine.
That's probably, yeah. But he used the Bible still. Because, of course, he did.
You like, believe that.
Okay, so yes.
All right,
so
we're back on
the
track.
Witches.
We're back on track. Okay.
Yeah, this was all about mothers and fathers, which was nice. Far into the 18th century England, they dragged innocent women into the courts. So, yeah, you said the vagaries of mortal men. While women were tortured, drowned, and burned by the thousands, scarce one wizard to 100 was ever condemned. And I like that they say, it is curious and depressing. And it still is.
It still is.
It still is curious and depressing. So in the old common law of our Saxon fathers, our English fathers, they just took the Torah and repurposed it because it seems that it fit their needs of kind of controlling all opportunities of a woman. So they were like, hey, I like it. I like it.
This is working for me.
Most women are witches. So let's just go with that. That's fabulous. Let's keep it. Even into the, we'll have a New Testament, but we'll keep that old stuff rocking.
we're gonna keep
because it works for us.
The wizard stuff is working. They're like, keep it.
Keep it.
Very fresh. But you're right. She talks about the motherhood thing. And I feel like we've done 100 episodes. This is only our 5th.
Yeah.
But I can't remember if you talked about, because I find it fascinating that Elizabeth herself was one that didn't hide her pregnancies.
Yeah, not at all. You celebrated her pregnancy.
I don't think you were even able to show a pregnant woman on television until the 70s.
Yeah, I think it was Mary Tyler Moore was the first show. I might make that up, but I think that is correct.
I know. I'm like, it was Murphy Brown. No, that was the first single.
That was in the 80s.
That was the first single mom.
Yeah, but Mary Tyler Moore did a bunch of stuff on her show. That was like women power.
I've never seen that show.
Girl, me neither. Just
Oh,
clips.
okay.
Just clips. I've seen clips. I'm sure it was on. I'm sure my parents watched reruns all the time.
You're like, I've been going to
in the background.
You've been going to see Broadway musicals. I get it.
Yes. Yes.
But that's the part, and I think you were starting to go into it, and then I was like, no, I'm not done with witches.
Yeah.
But now we can talk about baby making, motherhood, birth.
And apparently it was disgusting to them in the Old Testament, which is weird. Because how else are you going to populate a whole land?
Imagine the world if a female wrote the rules and regulations.
It would be so much better. Is that where you're going?
Yeah, that is where I'm going.
Like we could keep it clean and we could also enjoy the miracle, the true miracle that happens all the time.
They'd be like, we can keep it clean, However, hey guys, since you got your hands free,
how about you help out and
we're
clean
busy.
some stuff up?
We're busy birthing. And
how about you help out?
And trying to cook in one freaking oven.
Yeah, because the Bible says we have to appease the Lord.
I need to know more about this stuff.
I found in the end there, she said about how sins of men and women were treated differently and how you could, men could get off by just tossing a dead animal and women wouldn't. She said, in reading many of these chapters, we wonder why an expurgated edition of these books was not issued long ago. We trust the volume we propose to issue, this what we're reading right here, may suggest to the next revising committee of gentlemen the propriety of omitting many of the texts that are gross and obscene, especially if the Bible is going to be read in our public schools. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, why do you want your children thinking their mothers? If we're supposed to, because there's a whole thing. You must listen to your mother and father, but also she's disgusting when she gives birth to you. What?
And I'm laughing because that's ridiculous.
So you know that public schools, when they started, it was so that people could read the Bible, right?
I did not know that.
Yeah. That was a Puritan a Puritan belief. They were like, everybody should know how to read the Bible, so that way. Too bad it didn't stick, because the hope was that then you could interpret it on your own and you wouldn't need a clergy member. Of course, it didn't really go that way, right?
You can't leave things like Leviticus up to interpretation. Because I'd be like, I just stoned them. Like, what? I read it and followed it and
I threw some blood at them.
Yeah.
And we called it a day.
That's all there is to it.
I had some stuff because the public school thing, I went on a tangent because I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that's why it wasn't just, you like to think growing up in the 80s that it was so that we could learn about our civil rights and how to vote and those things, because that's what it became, right?
Well, I thought it became more of how to make you an obedient cog in the capitalist machinery.
I don't think that was the initial idea. But yeah, the Puritans wanted people educated, and they wanted them to read and write. So the Puritans, I got this. This was some of my rabbit hole stuff that I went on Wikipedia and just started like, oh, I got a question about this. So this is all Wikipedia available.
I feel like this is the Wikipedia
This is
section.
the Wikipedia section of my research. The Puritans, almost immediately after arriving in America in 1630, set up schools. Children did not attend school, were taught at home. As a result, Americans were the most literate people in the world.
Get out.
In 1630. Not today.
Not today.
Not today. As John Adams put it, a native-born American, quote, who cannot read and write is as rare as a comet or an earthquake. Also not the same now because we got this whole climate change thing coming out. So those are happening like whipping. Right. Whip-a-bang.
Did you know people were writing about climate change like back in the 19th century as well?
Stop it.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
It's true. It's not a new thing.
See,
there were scientists back then that were like, this is like a thing.
It's true and depressing,
it's
just like
true.
the lady said.
It's curious and depressing.
It's curious and depressing.
That should be our new tagline.
Listen. Welcome to Biting All the Apples. It's curious and depressing. Learn with us. But yeah, so these first American colonies, because she said, when she said that, if they're going to be in the public schools, I was like, what the heck? We don't have the Bible in the public schools, right? Well, separation of church and state. So then I went on that whole rabbit hole because of that. But then I was like, oh, the seed of American education really came because they wanted us to read the Bible. And then it all makes sense.
Right. Because the Puritans did that. And then 10 years later, they're like, we need to throw these witches
into the harbor. Burn them at the stake.
Yeah.
Boston Latin School was founded in 1635. Was not funded by tax dollars.
Wow. Who funded it?
The people. The peeps. But by 1644, they authorized the first U.S. taxpayer-funded public school. 1644. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Isn't that crazy?
I don't know if our listeners know that you are a public school teacher, Joanna.
I know. That's why I was like, ooh, I want to know more because this is affecting me because, people believe that we're indoctrinating. And I'm like, oh, Lord.
I wish.
I wish. We don't have time to indoctrinate. We have no time. We are doing the learnings and the behaviors.
That's right. Well, you are I don't want to tell you what you are. Well, tell our lovely listeners.
I do have a degree in special education, and that is my area of interest. But now I am mainly general ed, but I've done all facets. High school, middle school, babies. I've done it all. And
What's your favorite?
Really, I don't, you know what? I love what I'm doing now, but mainly because
Little kids?
little kids, they are the savior of everybody.
They are.
Right? They
They're
make
great.
you forget the whole world.
Yeah.
And I can just sing and dance about fun things and not think about the curious depression things.
The curious depression.
Just doesn't enter my life at all while I'm working, and it's lovely. Whereas, like, I think if you were in high school, you'd be more. It would be a little more depressing, probably. I would imagine, because those kids are.
But it would be curious as well.
It would be curious. I don't think I would want to be back there again. Not at this time. Not in this climate.
Not in this climate and not in this dress.
Not in this dress. Well,
Not
I
in
don't
this
know.
19th century dress.
I might like it as this dress. So then I was like, oh, well then, what the heck? When did separation of church and state happen, right? Because I was like, why are they? I can't believe that. I thought that was always a thing. But once I learned that it was actually created so that you could read the Bible, I ran into the Philadelphia Bible riots of 1844. Because, I was like, ooh, what about Elizabeth?
What?
Yeah, there were Bible riots.
And of course it was in Philadelphia.
Of course it was. Largely Irish immigrants in the neighborhood of Kensington. And this is where that Native American party I told you about, I thought it was funny they named them that themselves since, we took all this land from Native Americans. But people had been living in the Americas since, 1500s, right? They came.
Oh, this is the gangs of New York style. They call them the natives, right?
Yeah. Yeah, because apparently some of them were born here, so they felt like they were the Native Americans. So funny. So funny. So the Native American Party was anti-Irish. They were a white Protestant political group gathered across from the mainly Irish market in the neighborhood to hold a rally saying, these public schools need to use the Protestant Bible, right? And the Native American Party said, no, you need to use my Bible. Violence escalated, shots fired. Was a huge riot with Irish people shooting out of buildings behind fences, and then as many as 3,000 natives running to the streets, setting fire to buildings. And over 3 days, they burned 2 major Catholic churches. 20 people died. Thousands, mostly Irish, were displaced. And in today's amount of money, about $6.8 million worth of damage in Philadelphia over the Bible in school, of the type of Bible.
Even just the type.
It wasn't even the Bible. They wanted the Bible, but it was the particular type of Bible. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So Catholics and Protestants, which makes sense. Catholics and Protestants hated each other for a long time. I knew that because my grandma said, so my grandma would be like 104. And when she was a kid, there was some neighbors and they would play together outside all the time. And then she wanted to go to their house and they were like, no, you can't go in their house. They're Protestant. And my grandma was like, she thought it was a disease. She was like, oh, that's terrible. I don't want Protestant.
Right.
I don't want the disease. But yeah, so that was like in the 1920s, 1930s, right?
I mean,
so it went from 1840. The hate for the
the
Irish
place.
didn't go.
Yeah,
because that was in Washington State. Look at that. It went nationwide.
Nationwide, worldwide.
Worldwide.
Then
worldwide.
Do you think the Bible riots is a good place to just kind of wrap it up? Or did you have... Look, you're like,
I got so many things, Sarah. I got so many things. I got my outfit. I got more information about Elizabeth because I'm addicted to knowing about her. But that was just for my own. But yeah, the public schools thing and having the Bible in there. And they wanted to teach these things from Leviticus in the schools.
Well, because that's how they were like, this is how we want people to participate in society. These are the rules of, right? Our culture.
Of the Lord.
Right.
Of the Lord. But apparently they were different if you were Irish or if you were, from the Englands.
Who are you going to give your power to?
It's crazy to me.
None of it was given power to women, though.
None of it.
And that's why we're with the Women's Bible.
We're with the Women's Bible.
You can say, I'm not trying to.
No, don't cut me off. I wanted to.
Don't you cut me off.
I did a lot of reading today. Okay. I was on spring break and I was like, I want to read more. And I did, I ended up skimming a little into next week. So can I end with that? Because I couldn't stop myself.
You're going to end with?
A little bit into Numbers.
Just as a little. That is so, I like that. Because we said we're not, look, no rules.
No rules, just right.
No rules. I'm going to go into the book of Matthew right now. I'm kidding. Go for it, girl.
Don't you dare get out of this Old Testament.
I feel like we've been stuck in the Old Testament forever.
But I am excited for Numbers. And, of course, Elizabeth has this lovely point right before you get into it. She talks about how even kids are talked about, like the children of Jacob by this girl, the child of Jacob by this girl. Because, of course, men could have like 1 million children by different women, but women could only have one child. And it says men may consider that a small matter of just saying that when they could just say the children of Leah, Zippel, Rachel, and Blah by Jacob, making Jacob the incident instead of 4 women separating them out, because he obviously was a part of it. Men may consider that a small matter, which should make a point, but in restoring women's equality everywhere, we must insist on her recognition in all of these minor particulars, and especially in the Bible, to which people go to for their authority on civil and social statuses of all womankind.
That was the perfect pull quote.
Thank
Especially
you.
You're like, thank you. That's why
I use my highlighter. That's why I highlight stuff.
That got a yellow and an orange highlight.
It did. Look at that. Double.
That's what this is about, how people want their societies to be organized, how they're going to be run, who they're giving power to. That's all great.
Yeah.
But it's been a couple bajillion years. That's all we're saying.
Yeah. Can we progress?
Can we get going?
Can we progress? Let them, because I believe their hope, the way that they write this is like, hey, the revisionists are going to read this and they're going to change it.
Yeah.
But then it's just you and I reading it in the Bible. The Bible has not changed.
You just did a Joe Biden.
I did. And I leaned forward.
Let me tell you something.
And I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, Sarah. I'm not kidding.
I'm not kidding around. So, yes, I'm loving this. Next week, we are going to talk more about the book of Numbers. That's the real name of it, Numbers.
And I'm hoping it's like this person gave birth to 50 people. That's what I'm assuming.
I hear tell that it's all about obedience.
I love it. I love obedience.
And faith, having faith, trusting in the big they upstairs. I almost said the big guy upstairs, but no.
Big they. They use they.
So, the book of Numbers. Can't wait to see what our 19th century gal pals have to say about all that.
Yeah, and we'd love to hear what you have to say, too. So please check out our show notes for ways to leave us voice messages or send us a text. The voice message thing looks so easy and so lovely. I love that you set that up. You just click it, and then it's like our own voicemail message box.
Yeah. And, you can leave us a message about the show or your favorite oven or a recipe.
What happens when you open an oven 10 times? Tell me, does your bread get hard and heavy? I don't know, because I don't make bread. And if I did, I would just use the bread machine because it seems foolproof.
That's how
and
we do
nobody's opening that oven.
So, and you can also appease the fickle spirits of podcasting by subscribing and sharing.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.